Hi there, my name is Sim and welcome to Sims Racing. Quick disclaimer first, the past few weeks I had to prioritize certain projects, which is the reason why the video has only just been released, for which I apologize. Now about 3 weeks ago we saw one hell of a battle for the win at the WRC Ypres Rally Belgium. Living in the area and knowing a few of the top drivers competing at the event, I enjoyed myself greatly. On Thursday I visited the service park and managed to meet up with several rising stars in the sport. I was able to catch up and have a chat with John Armstrong, who is working together with simracing YouTuber legend Chris Hay and M-Sport during the rally. I also had a quick chat with Oliver Solberg, who was directing traffic for a minute, which was rather funny to watch. After that I met up with Chris Ingram. We chatted in the past but never got together in person until now. And finally I talked to Gregoire Munster, who had a massive shunt the week prior in the Rally of Staden. The team managed to find a replacement i20 Rally 2 he could compete in, and Greg worked together with a physiotherapist to make sure his wrist was up to the challenge. Driving a rally car, that is, obviously. Every single one of them who competed put in a stellar performance during the event, which was thrilling to watch. That being said, at the service park there was something else which instantly piqued my interest, a WRC Generations stand. People could hop into one of the simulators and have a go at driving the upcoming WRC game. Before it was open to the public, some of the top dogs in the sport went for a run, which includes several drivers like Oliver Solberg and Takamoto Katsuta, but also team managers Rich Milliner from M-Sport, Jari-Matti Latvala from Toyota and Julien Moncet from Hyundai. Shortly after they wrapped up their bit, I was allowed to have a go and test it out myself. Unfortunately, due to various factors, I wasn't able to get into the nitty-gritty of WRC Generations properly. First of all, the moment I sat down into the simulator, I wasn't able to find a decent seating position. The pedals were too close and I couldn't move them, only the seat itself was movable. Secondly, I have not driven that specific Fanatec wheel and pedal setup before, so it was tricky to get a good feel in such a short time. And last but not least, I immediately felt that the wheel itself wasn't set up right. There was barely any force feedback, and as you might have noticed from the footage, there's quite a dead zone when turning the wheel. Or at least I hope it's a dead zone. Now, I was told the force feedback was almost completely turned down because they expected quite a number of children to play on the simulators. After mentioning the dead zone issue, they said someone would definitely check it out and fix it. In the end, I could only do one run on the Decabus stage with the Ford Puma Rally 1 and all those hindrances. So if you were hoping for a detailed view on the driving physics in this video, I'll have to disappoint you. I can't discuss the physics based on the short experience I've had. It just wouldn't be fair. The moment I'm able to set up the game on my rig at home and spend several hours testing it is when I'll get a proper handle on what it's like to drive, which I'll share with you guys. Having said that, don't close the video just yet, because I did discover some interesting information whilst conversing with Sébastien, one of the people working at the stand. So after getting out of the simulator, he and I had a nice conversation about sim racing in general and the upcoming WRC game. Now, I started off by telling him who I was and what I do. He mentioned seeing some of my work on social media, which is kinda cool. Sébastien then asked me if I, as a designer, tried the livery editor in WRC 10. Unfortunately, I haven't, because many of the decals and sponsors were locked behind the player's career progression. Certain issues with the game, which I'll get back to later on, ruined my enjoyment for it, and I wasn't able to unlock much in order to properly get into the editor. We then shifted to the topic of sharing custom liveries with others in the community, something you'll be able to do in WRC Generations. Now, I know a significant number of players were displeased this wasn't a feature in WRC 10. However, I do want to clarify the reason as to why, because it's not as simple as many believe it to be. Sure, they were more than capable of implementing it immediately, but one thing prevented them from doing so: licensing. You have to keep in mind that manufacturers aren't all that keen on allowing game devs to swap their official colors and sponsor decals with custom ones. It took KT Racing and Nakon a long time to convince manufacturers of merely allowing a livery editor. They agreed to it, but only for personal use, as it were, and not for sharing. It took KT and Nakon another year or two of negotiating to get a deal done that allows people to share their custom liveries with the community. So the fact that sharing custom liveries with the community is only being implemented now has more to do with the reluctance of manufacturers allowing such a feature than the abilities of the dev team to design it. I believe it's important for players to realize this, as putting the blame for not having such a feature on the game devs is utterly misplaced. Now once I was able to get that initial conversation going, I saw an opportunity to slip in a couple of extra questions regarding the upcoming WRC Generations. One of which was why the PC version of the game will be released 3 weeks after the console versions. In previous videos I have speculated as to the reason for this, but now I finally have an answer. Sébastien started off by telling me that the PC community is a lot more vocal than the console community, something we are all well aware of. By delaying the PC launch, they are hoping to get as much feedback from the initial console launch when it comes to bugs and more. With the feedback, they are hoping to patch certain aspects before the PC release in order for that launch to be a far smoother experience than it had been in previous years. Patching a PC version can be done a lot quicker because the devs don't have to go through Sony and Microsoft in order to release particular fixes, something they have to do for console, which takes time. And even though I can understand their reasoning behind that, it does make me wonder how much faith they actually have in a solid launch for the game. I guess we'll have to wait and see if their strategy pans out or not. I do sincerely hope that their plan works and the PC launch is going to be better than it was in the past. The second question I slipped in was in regards to peripheral support. What has been done to make sure wheels, pedals and all the rest work properly from the get-go? Sébastien's answer was that they have been working together more closely with brands such as Trustmaster, Fanatec and others compared to previous WRC development cycles. According to him, Trustmaster for example assured the game devs that their products are working perfectly fine with the new WRC game. I'm honestly glad to hear this because I've had plenty of headaches in the past setting up my wheel and I suspect I'm not the only one here. The next question on my list was a big one. What has been done to optimize graphical fidelity? When a WRC game was released the past several years, there have always been tons of players complaining about screen tearing, stuttering and frame rate issues, which includes yours truly. Now I'm happy to say that, according to Sébastien, a lot of time and resources has gone into rectifying this specific aspect. From what I've seen and heard, they have actually figured out how to make the game run smoothly on at least 60 frames per second all the time for PC, PS5 and Xbox Series S and X. When it comes to the older generation consoles though, I can't say for sure, time will tell. It's a combination of peripheral and graphical optimization issues which absolutely ruined the WRC games for me personally. The stages in the last few WRC games have always been fantastic, the physics are not spectacular but decent, and I could just about live with the 3D car models and audio. Speaking of the audio, I was told that improvements have been made compared to WRC 10. However, it is still one of the major immersion letdowns in KT Racing's WRC franchise. The engine and exhaust audio I heard when playing on their rig remains far below par. It still sounds very artificial and will be nowhere near the level Dirt Rally 2.0 has to offer. There is footage out there of people playing a preview build, so if you want to have a listen yourself, feel free to do so. The most notable gameplay videos of WRC Generations can be found on the Team VVV channel. Important to note again, the footage is from a preview build, so things can and will change before the actual launch. With that being said, it's time to wrap up the video. I do want to give a special thanks to Sébastien from the WRC Generations stand for the fantastic discussion. Great respect for what he does and the way he handles himself in conversation. Also thanks to all of you guys for watching of course. Feel free to drop any questions you have in the comments below and consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I would really appreciate it as it helps us connect with more like-minded people. Enjoy the rest of your day, good luck and goodbye.